This is the only advice you need with business success speaker, Matt Hyams. Today we're going to get into the power of the locus of control, not having victim mentality, primal scream rooms, and burying yourself in the backyard. All right, let's do this. You're not going to survive if you don't have a growth mindset. If you have the wrong mindset, that's it. You're out. People won't tolerate anything less than the willingness to grow. So you have to ask yourself, do you have a willingness to grow or do you have a willingness to die? That's really important. I can't stress that enough. Take a look at yourself. Look at yourself in the morning. Ask yourself, do I want to die today or do I want to grow today? A lot of people, you might think it's a simple question, but a lot of people, they wake up and they're saying, oh, I want to grow, but they don't. They actually want to die. And then they go into the workplace, they log on to Zoom, and all anyone can see on their face is that this person wants to die. They're not interested in growing. So you've got to change your mindset into one where it wants to adapt and grow and learn new things. Not, oh, I'm done learning, I want to die, dig a hole in the backyard for me, throw my body in it, throw my stupid body in the hole, and then throw the dirt on my face and just watch me blink as I see the light go out. Is that the impression you're giving? How do you know? Because that's an important thing. The thing you have to do is you have to get a growth mindset. This is the hottest mindset out right now. This is the mindset you need to become an effective leader in today's times. A growth mindset is one that says, oh, I don't know how to do this, but I can learn and I can get better and I can practice. The fixed mindset is the one I mentioned before. It says, oh, I failed, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to leave my family, I'm hitting the road, I'm just going to eat roadkill from now on, pee in the bushes, I won't shower, I'll be disgusting, and that's how I'll live my life. Now, I should mention there is one benefit of that lifestyle, which is that a lot of homeless men, and this is just for the men, they do have larger penises. So you might be eating roadkill, you might get diseased, you might lose your family, you might not have love in your life, you might not have a job or any income, you might be living off the land, but your penis might grow. Or you might have been destined for that life already if you have an oversized penis. You know, the penis might be dictating what you need to be doing, that you need to be homeless. So that's why your life is falling apart, because your penis is too big. Well, it seems like it's falling apart, but you're actually fulfilling your destiny. No one can stand in your way if that's the case. Follow your destiny. Now, getting back to the fixed and growth mindsets, I've seen a lot of leaders, and I've seen them, ones with fixed mindsets, and I've seen them say out loud, dig a hole for me in the backyard. They tell their wives and their children or their husbands, and dig a hole for me in the backyard, and it becomes a family day. It's kind of a nice thing. The kids, everyone takes a part. They say, let's bury dad, let's bury mom in the backyard and say goodbye to them once and for all. And, and they give them a shot so they don't feel any pain. But it does keep their eyes open so their kids can look at them as they're throwing dirt on their face. But you got to be careful with that shot. That's what they did in Serpent in the Rainbow. If you ever saw this movie, it keeps your eyes open, but you can't talk. And you can't move, so you're paralyzed. And you don't want to be paralyzed. You want to be able to speak if your family is burying you in the backyard. Because you said, forget it, I'm done. Because then you can't say last minute, oh, wait a second, I just figured out how I could do this. Because a lot of leaders have been half buried. Their kids throw the last shovel of dirt on their face. And then the kids see a hand come through the ground. And it's their mother or father who's an executive leader. And they say, they can hear underground. They go, wait, I just had an idea, So don't paralyze yourself like they did in that movie Serpent in the Rainbow. Be able to talk because you might have a last minute of inspiration to get yourself out of the ground and develop that mindset, which I've seen a lot. And I've ended up coaching a lot of those people and they've become great leaders. Some of them have gone back to the ground. They realize, oh no, I didn't have a good idea. I didn't have a good idea. I do want to get buried alive and leave this world. So how do you develop a growth mindset? Well, you've got to say the word yet. If you're not where you want to be, you got to say, I'm not there yet. So you fail it, you try something, you're not good at this yet. And that's a tactic that I developed earlier in my career. When I was learning a growth mindset, I would worked for many companies, and they would say to me, "You are not good at your job." And I said, "Well, I'm not good yet." And they would say, "Yes, but we need you to be good now. We don't have time." And I was like, "Well, that's not really developing my potential because I might be good next week." And they said to me, "Well, that's what you said last week. We already had this discussion." And that's true. I did use this excuse, the yet excuse, a lot. And people got tired of hearing that because they didn't have a growth mindset. Because they were so fixed on the fact that I was using the same excuses, they couldn't see my potential. So the answer is to change up your excuses. If you're going to have a lot of failure, you're going to need a lot of excuses. So make sure you've got a lot of excuses to back you up, and don't use this, so you don't want to use the same ones. You've got to be willing to fail. Okay, that's very important. And if you do fail, you've got to be willing to not call it quits right after you fail, which means you need to get really good at failure, which really comfortable with failure. And that's something I had on my business card for many years, really comfortable with failure. And that let people know, hey, this guy's willing to make mistakes. And I told them, you bet I am. I mostly make mistakes. But then I took all that experience when I started my own company. And now I had a growth mindset because I'd failed so much and I was so willing to make mistakes. And I told everyone on the first day of my first business, I said, listen, I gathered everyone around for a group company meeting. I said, listen, I want you all to know this company is going to be mostly about failure. And a lot of people looked at me strangely, Some people came up to me later and said, well, that didn't sound great. I said, well, then you're not, you don't have the right mindset because I'm trying to breed growth mindsets around here. And they're like, well, they said, can't we have a growth mindset and succeed at the same time? And I said, you're not getting it. You are not comfortable with failure because you're so outcome driven right now. And they fought back. I told them that's a recipe for perfectionism. Perfectionism. I can't even say the word perfectionism. I don't want to say it perfectly. If you can say the word perfectionism perfectly, then you're not comfortable with failure and you've got imposter syndrome, or you're breeding imposter syndrome within your system. And I don't want to know you. I said, I'm trying to breed growth mindsets around here, And they said, why can't we succeed at the same time? They said, look, you're right. Some people told me I am a little outcome driven, but the only outcome that I'm driven towards is one where the company makes money. And I said, I don't know who hired you, but you're very annoying. And I think that you're arrogant and conceited, and I don't really want you here. And I let everybody else know, if you feel the same way, then you can leave right now because I don't believe you have any potential. And then some people said to me, well, that's not really having a growth mindset yourself. And I said, that's true. Now, the problem was that I had already let those other people go at that point. And what I realized was that I was left with a bunch of failures in my company. And it turns out you can't run a company with a bunch of failures. You do need some people who want to succeed. And that company had to fold because I was left with only the failures and I'd gotten rid of everybody who wanted to succeed. So you've got to be careful. It's a balance. Another way you can breed that growth mindset is by focusing on what you can control. You can say, if you fail, you say, well, how can I do this differently next time? And that's something, on a side note, my family got tired of hearing. Because every time we'd have an argument or my kids would upset me or my wife would upset me, I would say, how could I do this differently next time? And they said, well, you could just be nicer or not scream, not scream at us. And I was like, no. I mean, how could I, if I had to start it all over again with a whole new family and new children, how could I do this differently? So I don't end up in this place again with these annoying people. And, now the mistake that I made was that I said it out loud. I was thinking it and then I said it. And I realized there's a difference between thinking and saying. You have to make sure that you aren't saying the things you're thinking all the time because that can lead to a disaster. And my kids heard me say that. How could I do this differently without them? And I had to fix that, So I didn't just say, bury me alive in the backyard. I said, okay, let me see if I can fix this because I'm developing. That's growth potential. That's growth mindset. So I told them, look, okay, you heard me say that. You heard me say how I wish I could have done this differently, which meant new kids, new wife, new family, new home. And you heard me say that, but you're only hearing the downside, I told them. There's an upside. The flip side of that, the silver lining that you should be taking away is, well, this father of mine's got a locus of control he's triggering that he's trying to activate. Okay? I told him that's resilience. I made that a learning moment. So maybe you should be saying, how could I follow in his footsteps and not listen to things that I'm not supposed to hear? Because I was actually behind closed doors at the time that I said those, and they heard me through those closed doors. But here's the thing, you don't have to eavesdrop on everything that your father is saying. And I've told them this many times, and they're not listening. I said, if your father goes into his closed room off of the bedroom, the converted closet that he's made into his primal scream room, then you don't have to stand outside and listen to what he's screaming in his primal scream room, okay? If your father has a primal scream room that's a converted closet and he goes in there to let off some steam because it was a rough day for whatever reason at the office or at home, don't stand outside and listen to what he's screaming. That's not going to help anybody. And also, that's not activating your locus of control, because if you want to activate your locus of control and focus on things that you can control, then you go downstairs and you ask your mother why she's undermining me. You ask yourself why you aren't comfortable with failure, or a father who fails consistently. I thought I was breeding a home culture where, we wouldn't be breeding imposter syndrome in our family by showing that it's okay to make mistakes. But apparently we live in a little perfect house, don't we? Where everyone's got to be perfect and the father can never fail or make a mistake. So look, to build that growth mindset, you want to build that resilience muscle, okay? Another thing you can do, don't have victim mentality. Oh, why me? I always fail. Nothing's ever going to happen for me. I'm a loser. Everything's rotten in my life. I only eat rotten food. My socks are dirty. My fruit's disgusting. I don't deserve to have a meal with anybody. No one wants to sit next to me. I'm always picking my nose. My fingers stink. I've got worms in my butt because I don't wash myself. Everyone wants to hurt me, and they are hurting me. No one loves me. I'm not lovable. I'm gross. My face is gross. I'm slimy. That is not going to help you. And that voice is not going to help you. Victims, listen to this. You want to know what a victim is? Victims are people who get killed and attacked when they're not looking for it. Believe me, I know it all too well. Being like, oh, I didn't get promoted. I'm a victim. Well, here's a little dose of honesty for you. You probably didn't get promoted because you don't have a good personality. People probably don't like your ideas. And if you've got a victim mentality the whole time, who's going to want to listen to you anyway? No one wants to listen to someone who's like, nobody wants to hear from me. And you want a little personal tale? I had a victim mentality earlier in my career. And in meetings, they'd say, we want to hear from everyone. And they'd call on me and they'd say, well, what are some of your ideas? And I'd go, no one wants to hear from me. And I'd have that voice, no one wants to hear from me. And they were like, no, we called on you. We do want to hear from you. And I'd say, I'm a victim. And they're like, why are you talking like that? And I was like, I don't know. No one loves me in this room. And they asked me a really important question. They said, well, do we have to love you? And I was like, well, no one loves me. And they were like, well, why don't we talk about this later? So look, I've been through a lot in my life, okay? And that's why I'm trying to teach you these lessons, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. But I do want you to make a lot of mistakes toward that growth mindset. Build that resilience muscle, Don't have victim mentality. Focus on your locus of control. Make sure your kids aren't standing outside your primal scream room listening to everything you're saying. That's not going to help, honey. So I hope this helped. I can't wait to hear from you. Let me know how it goes, and I'll see you next week.